Praise the Lord. Oh, bless his beautiful souls. It has been a time, hasn't it? Since I have been on here, it has been a minute. So much has been happening in my life. I enjoyed my birthday. I have been gone for a minute. I have been dealing with some things just with life. Yes, things have been going on, but God is still good. Some things are good, some things are not. We know who we are, whose we are, and let's get into this. This is Leviticus chapter 12. I'm going to read it and then we're going to get into the commentary. Yes, it has been a while. Okay, so let me get into it. Let me see. I'm going back. I'm trying to close some of these windows. Let me see. Okay. I don't want this up. Close that. All right. I hope everyone is blessed. I hope life, I know life be life. But this is about purification. This is a chapter that is talking about so much when it comes to life just in general. So I'm gonna read it. It's Leviticus chapter 12. It said, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the people of Israel, saying, if a woman conceives and bears a male child, then she shall be unclean 7 days, as at the time of her menstruation she shall be unclean. And on the 8th day the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised. So that's where they get the Levitical law, I assume, of the circumcision of the child on the 8th day. Then she shall continue for 33 days in the blood of her purifying. She shall not touch anything holy, nor come into the sanctuary until the days of her purifying are completed. But if she bears a female child, then she shall be unclean 2 weeks. Wow. As in her menstruation, and she shall continue in the blood of her purifying for 66 days. Wow. So it's 33 days for male, 66 days for female, so that's twice as much. And when the days of her purifying are completed, whether for a son or for a daughter, she shall bring to the priest at the entrance of the tent of meeting a lamb, a year old, for a burnt offering, and a pigeon or turtle dove for a sin offering. And he shall offer it before the Lord and make atonement for her. Then she shall be clean from the flow of her blood. This is the law for her who bears a child, either male or female. And if she cannot afford a lamb, then she shall take 2 turtle doves or 2 pigeons, one for a burnt offering and the other for a sin offering. And the priest shall make atonement for her, and she shall be clean. Wow, so that's a lot. So this is purification. This is cleanliness. Remember, cleanliness is closest to godliness. This is a spiritual as well as a natural thing. We must understand that they are both happening simultaneously because we are spirit and body. This I have found myself on my journey trying to balance it. I mean, I went through my own stuff throughout my birthday, and it's like it's so much to unpack. This journey I'm going through, one day I will speak about it, but I'm still going through it. I cannot talk about all of it right now, but there's so much going on in my life, and God is unpacking it, and some things is just it's a lot. So let's get into the commentary. This is concerning clean and unclean. This is all about purification, childbirth, consecrating, The law here pronounces women lying in ceremonial unclean. The Jews say that the law extended even to an abortion. So if the child was also formed as the sex was distinguishable, so I guess they're talking about whether the baby was like stillborn, I'm not sure, I'm thinking. And there's some time or strict separation immediately after the birth, which continues 7 days for a son and 14 for a daughter. So that's where we see that come in. During these days, she was separated from her husband and friends, and those that necessarily attended her because they participated in the mother's pollution during the days of her separation. There was also a longer time appointed for their purifying, 33 days more, meaning 40 in all, if the birth was a male, and then double the time if it was a female. During this time, they were only separated from the sanctuary and forbidden to eat the Passover of peace offerings, or if a priest's wife to eat any of the thing that was holy to the Lord. While the time of both of those was double for a female, right? To what it was for a male, I can assign no reason but the will of the law maker. In Christ Jesus, there's no differences made of female, but this is ceremonial uncleanness, which the law laid women in childbed under, was signifying the pollution of sin, which we all are conceived and born in. For if the root being pure sows the branch, who can bring a clean thing out of an unclean thing? If sin had not entered, nothing but purity and honor had attended all the productions of that great blessing. Be fruitful and multiply. But now that the nature of man is degenerated, propagation of that nature is laid under these marks of disgrace, right? Because of the sin and corruption that were propagated with it, and in remembrance of the curse upon the woman that was first in transgression, that in sorrow to which, it is here further added in shame, she would bring forth children, and the exclusion of the woman for so many days from the sanctuary. So she couldn't participate in these sanctuary things. And all participation of the holy things signified that our original corruption, that sinning sin which we brought into the world with us, would have excluded us forever from the enjoyment of God and his favors if he had not graciously provided for our purifying. So this is what this is all about. And we see how all of that ties into be fruitful and multiply, as well as the curses, which were for Adam, Eve, and for the serpent at the time of the fall. So this is giving us a nice in-depth explanation as to what is going on or what has happened. A woman that had lain in when the time set for her to return to the sanctuary had come was not to tend there empty, but must bring her offering, right? So I guess this is separation time. This is her cleansing, purification, because she has to transition from unclean to clean. So at that time, God is not allowing, So the burnt offering of the lamb, if she was able, if she was poor, it would have been a pigeon. I guess that signifies how much wealth they had. This she was to offer as in thankfulness to God for his mercy to her and bringing her safely through the pains of childbearing, right? And all the perils of the childbed, right? Because you're in one, they always say in childbirth, you're 1 foot in the grave, 1 foot out. And in the desire and hopes of God's further favor both to her and to her child. When a child is born, there's joy, there's hope, and therefore it was proper to bring this offering, which was of a general nature for what we rejoice and we must give thanks for, and what we are in hopes of, we must pray for. But besides this, she must offer a sin offering, which must be the same for poor and rich, a turtle dove or a young pigeon, for whatever deliverance there may be between rich and poor, and the sacrifices of acknowledgement that the atonement are the same for both, right? For the rich and poor, because God, the sun rises and sets on the just and unjust. So in the sacrifice acknowledgement that Right, so the sin offering was intended either one to complete her purification from that ceremonial uncleanness, which though it was not in itself a sin, yet was typical of a moral pollution, right? Or to make atonement for that which was really sin, either an inordinate desire of the blessing of children or discontent or impatience under the pains of childbearing. Wow. It is only by Christ, the great sin offering, that the corruption of our sin nature is done away with. And that is owing that we are not forever excluded by it from the sanctuary and from eating of the holy things. Right, so that's because of Christ dying on the cross and paying for it. We're not excluded from eating the holy things and from being reconciled. According to this law, we find that the mother of our blessed Lord, though he was not conceived in sin as others, yet accomplished the days of purification, and then presented her son to the Lord, being her firstborn, and brought her own offering, a pair of turtle doves. Wow, that was in Luke 22 to 24. Luke 2, 22 through 24. So poor were Christ's parents that they were not able to bring a lamb for a burnt offering. Wow. And so early was Christ made under the law, to redeem those that were under it. The morality of this law obliges those women that have received mercy from God in childbearing with all thankfulness to own God's goodness to them, acknowledging themselves unworthy of it, and which is the best purification of women that have been saved in childbearing, themselves unworthy of it. First Timothy 2:15, to continue in faith, charity, and holiness with sobriety, for this shall please the Lord better than the turtle doves or the young pigeons. Wow, okay, so let's get to unpacking some more, because let me see. This was not a long chapter, but it was a really eye-opening one. So I'm going to go and get into some more of what it is talking about. Give me 1 second, because I'm trying to pull it up. Where is it? Oh, I am looking for it. Okay, so now we're going to get into the summary of it, because this is, okay, summary of Leviticus 12. This is childbirth and purification, the clean and unclean. When a woman gives birth to a male child, she is ceremonially unclean for 7 days, similar to her menstrual impurity. And on the 8th day, the male child is to be circumcised. She must then wait 33 days to complete her purification for blood. During this time, she must not touch anything sacred or enter the sanctuary. And I wonder if that's why, as women, we menstruate or have a flow of blood. I don't know if anyone after giving birth does, but a lot of women do. And that, I guess that's why. Female childbirth. If she gives birth to a female child, she is unclean for 2 weeks. She must then wait 6 days to complete her purification. And I assume that's because women, we bear. So we're the carriers. They're the seed. So their foreskin was cut, but then with us, it's more of a purification process, because they actually house the wombs, house the children in their bodies. So I guess this is why the purification process is much longer when it comes to a female than it is a male. Also, offerings for purification. I guess that's also why too, because we're not supposed to have sex during those times, meaning on our menstruation, and our wombs are open, and it's considered to be uncleanly times. And I know they even said, I think during those times, women couldn't even go to the sanctuary. They couldn't do anything that was holy. So offerings of purification. After the days of purification, the woman must bring up her offering, a lamb and a sin offering, a pigeon or a turtle dove, to the priest at the entrance of the tent of meeting. If she cannot afford a lamb, then she may bring 2 pigeons or 2 turtle doves. I wonder if that's why partridge in the pear tree. Yeah. The priest will offer them to make atonement for her, and she will be clean. This chapter emphasizes on ritual purity and the importance of offerings in maintaining spiritual cleanliness under the Mosaic law. Yeah, I want to explore more, because My thing is, because I keep asking about ritual, because these are a lot of rituals, and a lot of these, like I said before, we see when it comes to warfare, they practice a lot of these things. But my thing is the difference between rituals and, is it rituals and religion, or is it rituals and rituals, religion, and relationship? Let's look it up. Because rituals is one thing, religion is another, and relationship is another. And when we think about these things, it just makes a lot of sense. Ritual serves as powerful bridges between religion and relationships. And this is what I'm trying to get, because we see the rituals, and a lot of times some rituals are just that, because then there's no relationship involved, and it has more religion in it than relationship. So let's break these down. Fostering emotional intimacy, shared values, and spiritual connection, but they can also be misused to exert control or to create conflict, right? Because this is what I'm going through myself. Here's a deeper look at how rituals influence both religious practices and interpersonal relationships. The role of rituals in religion. Spiritual structure. Rituals provide predictable, meaningful patterns that help individuals connect with the divine, express devotion, and mark sacred time, meaning prayer, fasting, and festivals. Community bonding, shared rituals like worship services, pilgrimage, or holiday celebration strengthens groups' identity and fosters a sense of belonging. Moral framework. Religious rituals often reinforce ethical teachings, guiding behavior in relationships, though values like compassion, fidelity, and forgiveness. So I guess morals and ethics, that's something like the same. I guess it's kind of rituals in romantic and family relationships. Spiritual intimacy. Couples who engage in shared spiritual practices such as praying together or attending services report higher relationship satisfaction and emotional closeness. Culture continuity, right? Rituals like weddings, naming ceremonies, or holiday traditions helps preserve cultural identity and past values across generations. But sometimes these are good and sometimes these are not. Sometimes they are exasperated, sometimes they are made for money, they are made for gain, profit, they are taken out of context, and they are made to be the main force, which is not what God wants. Conflict and compatibility. The difference in religious rituals can lead to tension or misunderstandings, right? And interfaith relationships require open communication and mutual respect. When rituals become harmful, right? Coercive control. Some rituals, as right, especially in spiritual or cultic contexts, right? Meaning love spells may be used manipulatively to exert emotional control over partners, right? This is what I'm talking about when you start getting into these type of things. Emotional isolation. Victims of spiritual manipulation often feel trapped or disconnected, believing they're making free choices when they're being subtly controlled. That's like manipulation and witchcraft. That's what that is about. This is why it's so, like, when it comes to rituals, when it comes to religion, it is so different, because it's very difficult, like that thin line between love and hate, that thin line between, you've made it more about this than that, and the balance of it all to ensure rituals enrich rather than harm relationships, healthy integration. Because when we even look at the world itself, like when we look at the holidays and stuff, although they are, because they are based off of, as we discussed this before, all of the things of Satan, but still yet people worship them and do them. They're all about money. They're all about all of this stuff. And it's like, it still doesn't make a difference. People are still worshiping and idolizing these holidays. Even though in all actuality, they're not, they're harmful for us. So, use for connection, not for control. Practice with consent. Rituals should be mutually agreed upon, not imposed. Use for connection, not for control. Focus on rituals that foster empathy, trust, and shared meaning. Respect differences in diverse relationships. Honoring each other's traditions can deepen understanding and love. I mean, I myself get lost because it's easy to get lost in the ritual. It's easy to get lost in the religion, the practices. because you will start to do it repetitiously as if it's, you see what I'm saying? You don't have to think about it. Just like the life, the world that we live in, getting up, going to work, doing the same things over and over again. It's the ritual, it's the religious, religion practices in it. And it's like sometimes we get lost, and this is why I needed to break myself. Because clean and unclean, there is a big difference in the two, but there's a very thin line when you walk it as to dirty it up. So we got to make sure. So respecting the difference in diverse relationships, honoring each other's traditions can deepen understanding and love. But at the same token, it's like we know that that line is there, but yet it still gets crossed at times in our lives, with every aspect of our lives. And when we look into that, we will see that a lot of times we dirty up our own lives with a lot of the things. This is why we have to step back sometimes. We have to take a break. We have to relax, and we have to, because being here is a wonderful thing, but we can't be so heavily minded that we're not no earthly good. But at the same token, we're not supposed to walk in the flesh. So it's a very thin rope. I mean, it's a very thin line. I can say between love and hate. But yeah, I think I want to explore a little bit more, because clean and unclean we have already gotten into. And I think a lot of times, like I said, this is how we get confused. This is how stuff gets misconstrued. This is how witchcraft or manipulation, whatever you want to call it, can be introduced, because we see occults and we see practices in different ways, and they use religion, they use these type of things, the rituals, the religions, the practices. This is what they use to integrate into whatever it is that they're trying to do, which mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, spiritually could be very harmful. And depending on how it's used, because these things, even when with God, there was a time when he got rid of this because he saw that it was just, they were doing it to make money, to get rich off people, to just be doing it with no regards of what is actually being done and why, and actually walking and changing and applying and staying away from sin. And so they just continued on, and it's like they didn't care. As long as they went and did that, they were fine. Which, went and slaughtered a turtle or something. And they just, it made it just that much easier for them to sin, for them to this or that. And so when we look at these things, and then when Christ came, it's like folks gave themselves the right to be sinful or whatever. So we got to look at these things. I'm not sitting here judging. I'm not going to sit here and say, because we all have things and we struggle with, and we all have things, some things we see, some things we don't see. But being clean in the spiritual and the natural is very important to God. And being clean in the natural, is important as well as mainly in the spiritual. And we have to, these are things that we have to, I guess, consistently work on, because these are not things that are just because we were born into sin and shaped in iniquity, because we're transgressors, we have iniquity, because we have sin, because of disobedience, because of all these things, because of lack of knowledge. We're going to be unclean. We're never going to be completely clean until Christ comes back and redeems us. But we're supposed to, press towards the mark, and to not err, and to not sin, and to not just, have that as our excuse, I would say. I myself have gotten, these past 2 weeks, been going through my different situations and scenarios of living here, and how to live and be clean and holy, and how to not be of the world but be in it, but enjoy it, because I don't want to be here just my whole life and it just, rules and regulations. Don't get me wrong, spiritual warfare and battling and this. How do we still enjoy life and be here living and walking the way Christ did, uprightly, without sinning, and how do we live our life here and be clean and not dirty, and not be all about rituals and religion, but be about relationship, but be about respect, and be about doing what the Father will want us to be obedient. It is to not sin, to not trespass, to not transgress, and I have a whole bunch of iniquity. But even with us doing that, to knowing that grace and mercy does abound, Christ is there, to redeem us, the blood, but not to take advantage of it, to be respectful of it. So this is like, I mean, and it's very interesting because when we look at what goes on, and some people believe in circumcision and some people don't. But when we look at that as well, when you don't circumcise, it is a covenant with God, but when you don't circumcise, usually they say it's a lot of bacteria, a lot of other stuff. So it's like there's a lot of reasons for the rules, and I see why God uses laws. But then remember, these are things that people also use for their own personal gain as weapons. We have seen how they talk about the foreskins of children evil people use, whether it's for their looks, whether it's, the blood to look younger, to be, and they use these things. And they use these things for themselves in a way that God did not make them to be. And including with using, these ceremonial ways of rituals, of doing, the things of God that he required us to do, because these are laws. So the evil ones can manipulate, they can use them for themselves. And this is how a lot of witchcraft and sorcery is involved, because they use them for themselves. Because these are laws, these are statutes that God has put in place. But what they do is they use them for themselves and they manipulate it. And this is why we see a lot of this stuff happening around us. We wonder how, the evil are prospering, because they're using the actual laws that God has given all of us for themselves, but they're tainting it because they're manipulating it and using it in ways that they should not be using it. And this is why we see this. So when we're looking at it, that's what that is all about. And religion does affect relationship, and rituals do too, because, a lot of times we don't want to obey. We don't want to do things the right way. We want to take the shortcuts. That's what witchcraft is all the way. We don't want to wait on God. We don't want to trust in him. We don't want to go through the storms, and, we don't want to go through the trials and tribulations and the tests. We don't like them. We don't like rules. And when you look at your own children and yourself, who likes rules? Everyone's in this world is so full of lawlessness. The rules, they don't want rules. They want to have rules. Everyone just want to do what they want to do what God will. And that is not the way it is. God has given us rules, but they're to protect us, whether we like them or not. Just like a parent and their children, this is what they do. And it really is what it is. To protect us from us a lot of times, and from the wicked ones that are out here trying to destroy us. But for us, it talks about how religion reflects. Okay. Let's get into how religion reflects. How religion affects relationship. Well, religion is a cornerstone of human culture and personal identity. Often it intersects with relationships, right? Which is in profound ways. For many, religious beliefs provide a moral framework, right? A sense of purpose shaping interactions with others. However, the influence of religion on relationships can both be positive and negative, right? Depending on various factors, including compatibility, tolerance, and communication. This derives as how religion can impact relationships, exposing both the benefits and the challenges that arise. So we were just breaking this down. One, shared values and belief. One of the most significant benefits of religion in a relationship is the establishment or the shared values and beliefs. Couples who practice the same religion often find a common ground in their faith, which can strengthen their bond. Share religious activities such as attending services, praying, participating in religious festivals can create a sense of unity and mutual purpose, which is the gatherings, and we are supposed to gather. Moral guidance and ethical living. Religion often provides a moral compass. Yes, it's to guide individuals on what is considered right and wrong. This ethical framework can lead to more harmonious relationships as partners strive to live by principles such as honesty, integrity, and compassion. But for instance, many religious advocates for forgiveness and understanding, which can help couples navigate conflicts and foster big long-term commitment, but also community and support Religious communities offer a robust support system to individuals and couples engaging in a faith-based community, which provides access to counseling, mentorships, and social support, which can be crucial during the times of crisis. These communities often encourage positive relationship practices and provide models of success for long-lasting partnerships. But this is also, like I said, it depends on who, what, when, where, and how, because people use these things, take advantage, whether it's a cult, whether it's whatever. They take advantage of your money, your mind, how you think, how you, live, move, and have your being. And that's, really not what God wants. We can't get caught up in the who, what, when, where, how, meaning especially when it comes to making like idols out of, the pastors, the ministers, or the people we see before us. Because there's so many ones that are, actually of God, and there's so many that are actually not. But you hear them speaking and talking and handling things and situations as if it was, and we already know how we have to test the spirits, because this is what this is about. You can be easily fooled. And then they will do the things that replicate, what would be the real thing. That's when they talk about one who's stealing of identities, imposters, whatever. When you think about the movies and them impersonating or channeling, this is light. Rituals and tradition. Religious rituals and traditions can enrich relationships by creating shared experiences and memories, celebrating holidays, and participating in ceremonies and following cultural customs that can strengthen the bond between partners. These rituals can often serve as reminders of shared beliefs and values, reinforcing the couple's connection, which is a good thing. But then they say a lot of these things, like I said, that we are not, because there's a slippery slope. And when folks just kind of take it into the next level field. Purpose and meaning. Religion can imbue relationships with a deeper sense of purpose and meaning. Many couples find that their faith helps them to see their relationship as a part of a larger divine path, right? Because most relationships without God in it, three-strand cord, not easily broken. This perspective can provide comfort and motivation to work through challenges, viewing them as opportunities for growth and spiritual development. But what we must understand too is they use these things. I'm going to get into the negative part. They use these things because even with the women being single, wait on a husband, then with your time, be on everything, giving your time, which is a wonderful thing. But we find a lot of them, either they get married for the wrong reasons, or they marry the wrong person, or whatever the case may be. And even in the church, it is not a thing that is... You see what I'm saying? Okay, so we're going to get into the negative impacts of religion and relationship. Differences in belief systems. While shared beliefs can strengthen relationships, differences in religious beliefs can also be a significant source of conflict. Interfaith couples often face challenges in reconciling their differences, practices, and values. Disagreements over religious rituals, upbringings of children, right, and involvement in religious communities can lead to tension and misunderstandings. Now, when we talk about that is a part of the things. Even when we look at like folks giving out food and doing different things, because even the people who are not saved do these type of things, or not born again, or do not practice the same religious beliefs. They still use those, and they still apply to them. Those principles still apply to them, so they will still be blessed because of them. But see, then they still are doing it, intentions, motives, for all the wrong reasons. So it's like, although folks will be giving out turkeys, or they will come to your rescue, it will only be for their benefit and their gain. It wouldn't be about the motives intentionally because they want to. They just want to do it for the fames, because they say you're supposed to give in private, do things in private. And God will openly reward you. They want the applause, they want the fame, they want to, do their next business, and they want to, put it out there so that people will flock to them, whatever the case may be. So when we look at these things, you got to be careful, because the devil will send, in to just do exactly that. If you're poor, to feed you, so that they can get you caught up on the hook and reel you in. So let's not be desperate. Religious intolerance and judgment, because sometimes we have to wait on the Lord. Some religious doctrine may promote exclusivity or intolerance towards different beliefs, right? Which can strain relationships, and one partner holds rigid views. It can lead to judgment and a lack of acceptance on the other's belief, right? This intolerance can manifest in attempts to convert the other partner or disapproval of their religious practices, causing resentment and division. This is one thing, yes. And that is also with parenting styles. That's with a lot of different things. Because when you see people getting together All of these are playing factors when you're getting married, when you're having children, even at your jobs, because there's a lot of things you cannot even discuss at the job. Why? Because it will make a big uproar. There will be a big situation. Politics, right? Religion, if you discuss them at work. This is how, don't we see the ties? Okay. Pressure to conform. In relationships where one partner is more devout, there may be pressure for the other to conform to specific religious practices or belief. This coercion can create a power imbalance and lead to feelings of resentment and loss of identity. The non-religious partner might feel forced to participate in activities that do not resonate with them, leading to dissatisfaction and conflict, right? Because whenever there's some stuff going on, you will see that. Even with children, because even with your children, a lot of relationships fall apart because of the arguments over the children and how they are to be raised, along with money, along with other things, friends and family. So we got to think about those as well. Conflict with modern values. Certain religious beliefs may conflict with contemporary values and societal norms, right? Issues such as gender roles, sexual orientation, reproductive rights can be points of contention, right? If religious teachings are at odds with one partner's beliefs or lifestyles, these conflicts can create significant stress and challenges in finding common ground, right? This is another thing because, honey, I was married to a Jehovah's Witness. I'm a Christian, which he wasn't really practicing, but it still was. It's time to get married. We people, be careful about your partners and who you have children with. I'm just gonna tell you these things, even your jobs, because these things. Let me tell you. Influence of religious authorities. The involvement of religious leaders or authorities in personal relationships can sometimes lead, to negative outcomes. While their guidance can be beneficial, it can also be intrusive, right? It undermines the autonomy of the couple. The couples might feel obligated to adhere to advance that things that does not apply and align with their personal circumstances or relationship dynamics, leading to tension and dissatisfaction. This is also with family and friends. Let's not forget that, because that can also happen with them as well. Okay, navigating religion and relationships. Open communication. Effective communication is essential in navigating religious differences. Couples should openly discuss their beliefs right beforehand, practices, and expectations, creating a space for mutual understanding and respect. Honest conversations about how religion influences their lives and relationships can help identify potential areas of conflict and find workable solutions, right? Respect and tolerance. Respecting each other's beliefs is fundamental to a healthy relationship, even if a partner does not share the same faith. Showing interest and understanding towards each other, religious practices, and foster supportive and inclusive environment. Tolerance involves acknowledging and valuing differences without trying to change the other person. This is what it means to love and to love unconditionally. But we already know you can't walk together and be separate. So compromise and flexibility. Compromise is often necessary. Some things you can compromise on, and I'm going to tell you guys some things you cannot. Compromise is also often a necessity when dealing with religious differences. Couples should seek to find a balance that honors both partners' beliefs and practices. This might involve alternating participation in religious activities, celebrating multiple traditions, or creating new shared rituals that incorporate elements from both faiths. Seeking support. Professional counseling, including faith-based counseling, can provide valuable support for couples facing religious conflicts. Therapists who understand the role of religion in relationships can offer strategies to navigate differences and build a stronger and more resilient partnership. We must understand also media, upbringing, and our social cultures and backgrounds also play a big deal in us and relationships with one another. So that, and then with God, because we got to understand something. What we deem is good and what we think is right here is not in God's eyes. So we got to look at these things. We got to compare them. We got to really be paying attention to these things. Let's focus on common values. Emphasizing shared values rather than differences can help couples find common ground. Many religious and non-religious people alike value love, kindness, right, integrity, and family. Focusing on the universal principles can strengthen the relationships and provide a solid foundation for resolving conflicts. Religious impact on relationships is multifaceted, yes, offering both opportunities for deep connection and challenges that require careful navigation by fostering open communication, mutual respect, and willingness to compromise. Couples can harness the positive aspects of religion while mitigating potential conflicts. Ultimately, the goal is to build a relationship that honors both partners' beliefs and supports their shared journey through life. But see, that's the thing, because even when we're looking at all these religions, I'm going to tell you, because I've been looking into that stuff too, and we know that most of these other religions are false. They are false. And so that is going to be a hard situation, because two altars, two different people cannot be on one accord if they're at odds and they're at differences with one another. So that might be something we want to pay attention to as well. Like I said, cleanliness and uncleanliness, when we're talking about all of these things, basically in the book of Leviticus, this is Leviticus 12. So when we are seeking and we're thinking about all of these things, we're talking about being clean and cleansing ourselves. Fasting and praying is a wonderful way of cleansing. Along with, that's the spiritual and the natural, to detox your body and the natural along with your spiritual. So it's a wonderful way of getting rid of the filth, being clean, being transition processed from unclean to clean. And we have to pay attention to what God considers clean and holy in the spiritual and in the natural, and what he considers to not be clean and holy. Because although it may be passable to us, it may not be to God. So we have to look at that. Jesus is here. He's the way, the truth, and the light. We need to be following what he shows us and teaches us. Because we can follow other people, places, and things. I'm talking about books, seminars. I'm talking about pastors, preachers, all these things, like I said before. In a video before this, everyone speaks and they're speaking about God. And this is what Jesus and God says. And I get it. And it's all about scripture. But what happens when they contradict one another, but they're the same scriptures? This is how a lot gets to be questioned. And there's no unity in the body. There's no one accordness. And it makes conflict, confusion, which God is not the author of. It makes us be at war with each other. God is not in that either. Like I said before, some battles are ours and some are not for us to fight. And we have to know which ones are and which ones are not. And some things we have to just leave in God's hands. I don't care who it is. It could be a spouse, it could be your children, it could be whoever. Some things, some friends you cannot be around. God will remove you from people, places, and things as he sees fit. And a lot of times it's hard for us to let go. We don't want to. It's things that we're used to, we're normal, we like, we enjoy. And it's all about sacrifice. It's all about doing what God wants us to do. And that's usually not the easiest thing or the easiest way for us to do things. Usually that's the hard road, the narrow road, the road we don't like to take. And trust me, because I know in my own life, it really gets to be something. But I don't know. Just so much. I don't know, 46 has already began, and I have already been, just kind of in my head about a lot of things. That's why I needed to vacate, and that went well, but then there was a couple hiccups, like I said. So when we're looking at these things, and I'm looking at my own life, because I always look at the scripture for myself first, because I'm the one that needs to be changed first. And how does this apply? How do I apply it in my life? Because there's so much, and we get overwhelmed, and there's so much, whether it's in the books or the teachings or whatever it may be. It could be online. It could be, something God showed you, revealed to you himself, something you read in the book, in the Bible itself. And it will come to you, and it will bother you, and it will have you up at night, and it will have you tossing and turning for answers, to questions about things that you just need to know for yourself, to get your life, to ask God to help you with your life, to seeing the you and fixing the things you can't change on your own, because God's not going to come and do everything for us. Jesus came, and he's the way, truth, the light. He sent the comfort of the Holy Spirit to comfort us. So we have to be mindful of these things. And like I said, just because we see people speaking in tongues, laying on hands, just because we see them gifted and doing a lot of things and they're popular, doesn't not mean that God sent, along with the feeding the homeless and clothing. it doesn't mean that they are sent from God, because Satan will send those in that looks and acts just the same way, and they are far from Christ. And he will tell them in the last days, flee, get from me. Because actually, he didn't know them intimately, personally. We can get caught up in doing the work of God, but not having the relationship with God, backing the hearing the from him. So, and folks can do well still, because if that's what people want, and we have to know when it's God and him speaking, because a lot of times it could just be us. Like, I see people get married and then they get divorced and they say, oh, well, God told me that. And then they like, when it goes wrong, did God tell you that, or was that just you? Because I mean, 1 minute it was God, but then it didn't work out and then it wasn't. So, and these are things we have to be very careful of, because I myself found myself in that same situation, that same predicament. So we have to just be careful of these things, these people, places, and things in every aspect of our lives. We have to really be paying attention, because it's easy. You can easily be fooled. Remember, Satan has been around a long time. They say he's this great deceiver, and that he will send people, places, and things to deceive you. They will be the ones coming to help you, and all along they're the ones that really are the ones that sent by him. But we're thinking that it's sent by God. Is everything good? They say in God, or didn't come from God. Because Satan will send you exactly the list of whatever it is you want. He will send it to you. And it will take you right out of the will of God. You would think in your bam smack, this is what God wants. But is it really, or is it what you want? In your head, your mind, and your thoughts is what you're telling yourself. This is God. This is God. It got to be God. And it's not. Things we need to pay attention to. And being clean and unclean. I mean, so I think I'm going to end this one out. Like I said, we're bruised and not broken. We are blessed. Blessed to be a blessing. I don't ask somebody in this channel to actually like, share, comment, and subscribe. There's a lot going on in my life. Just so much. Life just be lifing. But this is chapter 46. And I think at this point in time, when you get to a certain age, the closer you get to being older, your priorities change, things in your life change. And for me, this is where I am, because the next, when I'm making my decisions and I'm preparing myself for this next phase of my life, it has to be very different. Why? Because now I'm thinking about retirement. Now I'm thinking about all these other things. And this is stuff we need to be paying attention to, because, and to my women, oh, please, my ladies, because this is talking about the ceremony, clean and unclean. This has a lot to do with birthing, childbearing. This is transition. This is rebirth. All of these things that's about life, about changes, about living, about love, about all of these different things. We as women, because we are the ones that hold the life, give the life, have to be so very taking care of ourselves and, who we're with, and all of these type of things. Because when you're carrying that child, guess what? Whatever you're feeling, it goes right into them. So when we look at our children nowadays and we see certain things, we got to understand, look at how things were when you were pregnant. Were you stressed? Were you these things are just like so, I'm just learning myself so much just about a lot of things, and it explains a lot when you look at your children. And then when you look at all the other things, all the other, elements, ingredients that go into this cake, that is either good or not, and it just has issues. You see what I'm saying? Things that can be fixed or changed or need tweaking. How you were brought up, your own life, your own past, and how you work and trigger things trigger you. You're normal, because this is what you see as normal. It's not the same as other people's normals. So when you're looking at these things, this is what you got to be looking at. And like I said, women, make sure you're taking care of yourselves. Don't depend on anyone else to do it for you, because I'm going to tell you, children grow up and they leave. They have their own lives, and men come and go. So I would tell you just to focus on the Lord. I know that's a hard thing to do, but we need to be, because we don't want to be left out. And at the end of the day, we do so much pouring. We need someone to pour back into us. And I see why my grandmother and so many others just sat down after a while, and they just let the Lord love them and guide them, and they didn't want to be with anyone. And it's like, who wants to be the old maid, the old hag, if that's what they say? But a lot of times they end up being the happiest. They might regret and have anger and bitterness about some things not going the way that they want. But once they accept it and they're like, okay, maybe this was what was the enemy meant for my bad, God meant for my good, because they're happy, they're content, they're, not running around with their heads chopped off, still chasing after these magical wishing, thinkings, fairy tales, and knowing that life is real and things can go either way. It could be a wonderful situation because nothing's set in stone, or it could be a horrible situation. You know what I'm saying? And so when we look at these things, it's like, because everything starts off wonderful, and then in the middle and the end, it be a doozy, right? And you just never know what's going to get there. It's like you see signs here and there, but you didn't pay no mind because this is what you really wanted. Whether it was what God wanted for you or not, it was what you wanted. So you went on ahead with it. And everything in you, the voices are telling you, yes, this is it. So we got to be paying attention. We got to take our time. Don't rush. We got to think it out. Wise counsel, godly counsel, always a wonderful thing. And just ask Jesus, God, to show you and the other person, so that way in the spiritual and the natural you see and know what you need to make decisions, because we perish for lack of knowledge, because we don't really be knowing what's going on, or we only have a piece of it. We don't get the whole picture, because remember, that's another thing. And whenever that is going on and we're making decisions, it is not, we're just going kind of blindly into it. So I'm going to end this one. Like I said, we are bruised and not broken. It has been a while. I am finally getting my patterns back as far as getting back into the swing of things. I did enjoy my trip. I enjoyed it. 46 is here. And it's a good thing, but it's another thing that's letting me know you got to get yourself together. You got to listen, girl. Time is going. Birthdays are coming by faster. I don't know why. And you have to get it together, girl. You have to really be trying to get it together. And no more going backwards, no more standing still. We got to forward, be walking. Every step is with intention. Every thought, every action, it has to be, flowing. So, like I said, we are bruised and not broken. This video is kind of dark. I can't tell you why, but I wasn't able to have lighting like I wanted to. But I was trying to get one out, and I was trying to make sure, because it's been about, outside of the ones I posted on location when I was out, really and truthfully, it's been about 2 weeks. So I got to get back into motion in the swing of things. Vacation is officially over. Regularly scheduled programming is back on. I got to get back on my grind. And this is one of the things. So the procrastination has to stop. And I have to really keep pressing forward. So like I said, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that it was a blessing. We were talking about clean and unclean. We were talking about, the specifications of it. When we think about what is considered unclean, we know nasty, evil, wicked. We know dirt, filth. We know sewage, all those type of disgusting things. Clean and unclean, we know. But we got to look, because it's more than just outside. It's on the inside. It's the spiritual cleaning. It's the natural cleaning. It's the process. It does not happen overnight. It takes time. And for us, we will never completely be clean. And even our cleanest day is still, when it comes to Jesus, filthy rag. Why? Because we can never meet the standards of the bar. Only through him, and we are thankful and grateful that he went to the cross. He died for us. He raised again so that we might be saved, and his blood was shed as the ultimate sacrifice so there would be any more. And there's no reason for us to do a lot of these things that we see here any longer, because Christ came and he made the ultimate sacrifice. So that put away all of this. That took care of this. So we see folks operating out of this and the sorcery and the manipulation. That is not of God. It is of Satan. It is of the devil. We have to pay attention to these things. Because they're using it to their advantage, to our downfall, for their benefit, to get on top of us and to use, do whatever it is they want with us. Whether we're willing participants and they trick us or not. Whether we go into it willingly, thinking we know it or not. So, like I said, bruised and not broken. I'm going to let this video go now. I hope that you enjoyed it. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We are bruised and not broken. Love you guys. And until the next word, be blessed. Thank you.